Well, we're headed out this morning. Remember the paperwork issue? Well, one of the paperwork issues is going to be resolved in a couple minutes. It finally got done, so that's a plus. So this will take care of one of those legal things I gotta get done, and I'm hoping today or tomorrow the second one. Somebody stealing palm trees? Yep. Ooh. Palm tree taking. I'm hoping the second one is done, and then that'll be wonderful. I'll tell you more about it, but not till it's all done. I don't want to jinx anything. Okay, well, I just stopped and took care of paperwork, got all that done, got home, and what time is it? I have no idea. Must be getting close to lunch. Can't be 12 o'clock because you'd be telling me. Right. So, I don't know, this afternoon, maybe we'll get in a beach walk, or maybe a swim, I don't know. It's a little, you gonna swim today? Yep, I am. You are? I'm not sure. It's got breezy, so I'm not sure about that swimming. We'll see. We know him. He has some issues. Anyway, I'm gonna put up. There is a pelican. I'm gonna put up something for you to watch, and it's about how, you know, the whole thing of coffee, and specifically bad coffee, has come about to be what's considered the norm of coffee. And it's, you know, it really shouldn't be that way, but you can understand how it got that way, and now we're starting to make changes. You know, you'll see that this is there was a first wave of coffee drinkers, then a second wave, and now we're into the third wave. And will it change everybody's perception? I don't think so. There's some people who are, you know, pretty much this is what we're going to have for coffee. But take a look at the video and let me know what you think.
I mean, like 90% of the coffee that's consumed is bad coffee.
Yeah. I don't really love it, which is the nice way of saying I hate it.
Yeah, it's bitter. Okay, bad.
So my favorite cup of coffee is from the street cart right outside of my apartment. I mean, we all have our go-to spots for a good cup of coffee, whether it's because it's cheapest, fastest, or we just like the taste the best.
My go-to spot for coffee is a independent place with like $4 cold brew.
Probably Starbucks, just because I live in New York and there's one on almost every block.
Starbucks closest to the office.
Starbucks.
Opinions aside, it got me wondering, what makes an objectively good cup of coffee?
Objectively speaking, a good cup of coffee is sourced well, roasted well, and has a balanced flavor. A bad cup of coffee is the opposite. It's the opposite of everything I just said, right? The majority of people that drink coffee drink bad coffee. The percentage of people that drink good coffee is under 10%.
And that's because Americans never really drank good coffee in the first place. So we are doing a taste test, and there are 3 levels of quality, which are low, medium, and high. We are basically going to smell the grounds, drink the coffee, and then compare. Let's see who can pick out the good coffee and who's been conditioned to like bad coffee.
Wow, that's like someone put a piece of charcoal in water and said, here, there you go.
So this one just tastes like, yeah, acrid and bitter and burnt.
It's very watery. It doesn't go down smooth. It's sort of a sharp taste.
I don't want to finish drinking this small amount, let alone a whole cup that's not like drowned out with milk and sugar.
I can't. That tastes worse and worse and worse. Did I like that at one point?
Ultimately, while most people think coffee is subjective, it is not. It either is or it isn't.
Like restaurants in New York City have a set grading system, coffee has its own grading system as well. All coffee is graded by certified Q graders, who are certified by the Coffee Quality Institute. They had to take the equivalent of the bar exam for coffee and analyze coffee through a process called cupping.
It is based on a number of components. So those components are all graded, and if a coffee scores an 80 or above, it is considered a specialty grade coffee. There's a line that happens at specialty, and anything that falls below it, it's so bad, right? It tastes so bad. The majority of franchises serve below specialty grade coffee.
Yeah, that one's a lot better. It's a lot less acidic. It does not taste like what I'd imagine like garbage juice to taste like.
This one tastes a little more watered down, I think.
I hate it less. The aftertaste's kind of nice. It's definitely way better than that was. This is okay.
For right now, people are drinking terrible coffee and they have absolutely no idea how bad it is.
And it has a lot to do with marketing. 100% Arabica beans sounds like it's promising a really good cup of coffee, when really it's just promising not to be the absolute worst.
The language that people use.
Have words, right? Like bold and dark. Well, who's using that? Who's using those words? It's not us. We're not using those words. We become so accustomed to this language that we don't know anything else.
Until the Boston Tea Party in 1773, America was a tea country. But during the American Revolution, a large number of Americans switched to coffee because tea had become unpatriotic. Fast forward to the 1900s when it really started to become popular. Instant coffee started making the rounds during World War I. American soldiers were drinking the coffee daily to increase mental awareness and mobility during battle, and they needed something to make quickly in the field. This instant fix became addicting, and when soldiers went home, they wanted something familiar and tasty. But as we all know, instant coffee isn't exactly high-quality coffee.
Honey, your coffee just doesn't taste any good.
If I tell you that this is a delicious cup of coffee, and you taste it, you don't know any better that it's a delicious cup of coffee, you're gonna go, oh, interesting. But then you have a feeling to it, right? And so we become accustomed to the warmth of it, to the caffeine high that we get from it, and we can become conditioned to that.
So this wave of instant coffee that entered the homes of millions across America was known as the first wave of coffee. The second wave of coffee came with the creation of Starbucks coffee in 1971. They introduced fresh roasted coffee beans to the mass public and started to change the public's expectations when it came to coffee. According to today's standards, Starbucks doesn't have the absolute best cup of coffee. But at the time, this was the best coffee that was accessible to the mass public. Starbucks cemented America's coffee drinking culture and paved the way for the modern specialty coffee industry to exist today. Which leads us to the third wave of coffee shops that are happening today. Smaller, independently owned specialty coffee shops are on the rise. From harvesting and roasting to the cup that's handed to you at the counter, these shops and roasters are paying special attention to the product that's being delivered.
This one tastes kind of like a little bit of the acrid one, a little bit of the balanced one, so maybe it's the Goldilocks one, I don't know.
Is this the same one as the first one? No. This one tastes the most like water, which means I like it the most.
I think this one tastes the best. Does that mean this is the right one? Am I right? Oh, I am right. All right, that's awesome.
Lowest, middle, highest.
Second best, worst.
Best, medium, worst. I drank it all.
1, 2, 3, liking this one the most. Wow, so I liked the best coffee. What a sophisticated palate I have, because all I drink is water.
This one's the best, this one's the second best, this one's the worst.
When people drink a cup of coffee, they're not thinking, wow, the aroma, like they're not focusing on those components of the coffee. They're focusing on whether or not they can actually drink the cup of coffee. And so what they do is they add milk and they add tons of sugar and they add all these other things to make it taste like what they believe coffee is supposed to taste like.
From the wars to Starbucks, we've been conditioned to believe that the vast majority of coffee is good, but it's objectively not. For me, I'm okay with that because street cart coffee hits the spot. But for others, it might not be the case.
I hate coffee. I think it's really bitter. I hate the way it smells. It's brown, which is not appealing. I don't know. I don't really care for caffeine or coffee or anything about this.
Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And ring the bell below, that way you're notified whenever we post a new video.
Okay, so you hopefully watched that video that I put up, and I mean, did you think about that is in the past, or is that something new? You didn't realize that that was sort of the evolution of coffee? All these things, when you start looking at them, you find out, marketing and the reasons being, and I think one of those potential reasons being, as I get into coffee, is that it's a tough one because you've got these beans that, you pick them when they're green. It's a little bit hard to tell, they're not monstrous, if they're really ready. And you get, some of these coffees that I've had, you'll get 20, 30, 40 bad beans in the roast, which are called Quakers. And those bad beans can destroy a cup of coffee. But now if you take that whole roast and you bring it, to a really dark roast where they're all dark, basically just super fried, more towards the charcoal end of things, you probably won't be able to taste those bad beans. So it's a theory, I don't think anybody is going to tell me, oh yeah, that's the truth, but that's a theory. Sid and myself, since we've started roasting coffee, we now realize that coffee from around the world at different places, at different elevations, really has a whole range of different tastes, aromas, everything else. It's not just that coffee smell. Some have a very smooth taste, some have a little bit more bitter, some have cinnamon, spices, vanillas, there's
cherry cordial.
Yeah, there's been, those little chocolate balls you get at Christmas that have the liquid cherry in it. So when you start looking at those coffees compared to that other stuff, it's like the other stuff becomes non-palatable. It's like, this is not good at all.
And Todd says, what kind of coffee would you like today? And I say the good one.
Which in our house leaves that wide open.